Oh, wonderful. Another thrilling day at the Galactic Species Conference, where we get to watch various species brag about their evolutionary superiority. Pause for dramatic effect. I'm Ambassador Krix Vep, representing the esteemed planet Zendara, and today promises to be particularly interesting. The Starlight Nexus Station's Grand Hall is filling up with the usual suspects. Amused sigh, you should see this circus. To my left, the crystalline Ambassador Lux Shimmer is literally glowing with anticipation, though, to be fair, she's always glowing. She's currently trying to avoid the acidic drool from the Nexorian delegation. Chuckle, good luck with that. Please maintain proper biological containment protocols, High Counselor Blipzorp announces for the third time in 10 minutes, their 6-eye stalks twitching in synchronized annoyance. The poor thing nearly had a meltdown when the gaseous clouds of Nebula 6 tried to mingle with the silicon-based rock peoples of Granitus Prime. Snort, that was a chemical reaction waiting to happen. General Raz Thorn just stomped past my observation post, all 4 of his arms clutching different weapons. Security protocols must be maintained, he barks, like he does at every single conference. Extended pause, I swear he sleeps with those plasma rifles. But today is different. Voice raising with excitement today, we have our first ever delegation from a little planet called Earth. Whispered, and between you and me, everyone's losing their minds about it. You see, Earth is what we call a dramatic pause death world. Professor Quix Bloom, our resident know-it-all, hasn't stopped spouting facts about Earth since sunrise. Did you know she announced to anyone within earshot that humans have to physically shut down their consciousness for 8 hours every day just to survive? Laughing, wait until she finds out it's actually for rest and not some bizarre survival ritual. The excitement in the air is palpable. The floating jellies of Europa VII are so nervous they've turned from their usual calming blue to an anxious shade of neon green. Even the normally stoic rock peoples are vibrating, though that might just be from the bass-heavy welcome music Blipzorp insisted on playing. Ambassador VP, a voice interrupts my observations. It's my assistant, Pipsqueak, yes, that's their actual name, poor thing. The Earth delegation has docked. They'll be entering through the main airlock in 5 minutes. Hushed, conspiratorial tone now, you should see the security measures they've put in place for this. 3 layers of reinforced force fields, 2 squads of Raz Thorn's elite guards, and enough tranquilizer gas to knock out a Jovian mega beast. Pause all this for a single human representative. The tension in the room is rising faster than a Mercurian volcano sprite during mating season. High Counselor Blipzorp's eye stalks are practically tied in knots. The gaseous clouds have condensed into tight, worried little puffs. Even Ambassador Lux Shimmer's glow has dimmed to a nervous flicker. Voice dropping to a whisper, the airlock doors are about to open. General Raz Thorn has positioned himself front and center, all 4 arms now holding fully charged plasma rifles. Professor Quix Bloom is frantically checking her data tablets, probably preparing to spout more questionable Earth facts. The entire Grand Hall has fallen silent. You could hear a micromoth's wing beat. Long pause, the airlock starting its decontamination sequence. Red lights are flashing. Warning buzzers are sounding. Every species in the room is holding whatever they use for breath. Excited whisper, this is it. The moment we've all been waiting for. The first human to ever attend the Galactic Species Conference is about to enter. And sharp intake of breath. Oh, pause, oh. Another pause, well, this is unexpected. Nervous laughter. I don't think anyone was prepared for what just walked through that door ... through those massive airlock doors walked. Long pause, a small, bipedal creature wearing what appeared to be decorative fabric coverings and a disarming smile. No visible weapons, no razor-sharp claws, not even a proper set of fangs. Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Morgan Rivera, Earth's representative. Thanks for having me, the human announced cheerfully, adjusting something they called glasses on their face. Bewildered tone, they were speaking perfect galactic standard, and their voice sounded almost musical. General Raz Thorn nearly dropped all 4 of his plasma rifles. But, where are your natural defenses, he sputtered, mandibles clicking in confusion. Our intelligence suggested you were from a death world. Dr. Rivera just laughed a sound that made several floating jellies retreat to the ceiling. Oh, we are. Earth's quite challenging, actually. Would anyone like some coffee? I brought enough to share. They held up a container of some dark liquid. Horrified whisper the same liquid that, we would later learn, they willingly put inside their bodies. Professor Krix Vep pushed forward, all three of her research appendages waving frantically. According to my studies, humans can bite through solid metal and run at speeds exceeding sound barriers. Snorting laugh. Someone had clearly been reading too many SpaceNet conspiracy theories. Actually, Dr. Rivera responded with a polite smile. We're quite average in most physical aspects. Though we did invent something called parkour. Want to see some videos? Counselor Blipzorp's eye stalks were practically vibrating. But the data, the statistics. Your planet has temperatures ranging from freezing to boiling. Constant gravitational forces, deadly radiation from your sun, regular atmospheric electrical discharges. Oh, you mean weather? Dr. Rivera grinned, causing Ambassador Lux's shimmer to dim so dramatically I thought she might short-circuit. Yeah, we just carry umbrellas for that. And sunscreen. Speaking of which. Pause as the human reached into their bag. I should probably apply some now under these bright lights. The entire assembly watched in horror as Dr. Rivera casually smeared some sort of protective paste onto their exposed skin. Whispered the gaseous cloud started spreading rumors that it was liquefied predator essence. Is it true, my assistant Pip squeaked from behind my protective tentacles, that humans can regrow their limbs? No, Dr. Rivera chuckled, though we can get prosthetics. And our bones do heal if they break. Dramatic pause. The sound of hundreds of alien species gasping simultaneously is quite something. Let me tell you. And then. Suspenseful pause. Dr. Rivera sneezed. 3 emergency containment fields activated, 2 species fainted, and General Raz Thorn ordered an immediate quarantine. Amused sigh. It was going to be a very interesting conference indeed. Once the sneezing incident was cleared up, and several species were coaxed down from the ceiling, the presentations began. Exasperated sigh. As always, the conference hall had been modified to accommodate every possible form of visual communication, from psychic projections to interpretative plasma dance. First up was the Nexorian delegation, proudly displaying holovids of their famous acid-spitting cave worms. Sarcastic tone. Yes, very impressive. We all politely applauded their presentation about predators that literally dissolve their prey. Dr. Rivera just sat there taking notes, occasionally muttering something about Komodo dragons. Behold the might of the Granitus Prime Crystal Crusher. Ambassador Lux Shimmer announced next, showing footage of a massive crystalline beast that could pulverize mountains. Pause. Dr. Rivera raised their hand and asked if they could pet one. Bewildered, the silicon-based rock peoples are still processing that request. The tension grew with each presentation. The floating jellies demonstrated their electromagnetic void hunters. The gaseous clouds showed off their atmospheric dissolvers. Dramatic pause. Even my own planet's quantum phase stalkers earned some impressed murmurs. But everyone was waiting for Earth's presentation. Conspiratorial whisper. I overheard General Raz Thorn taking bets on what kind of monstrous creature humans considered dangerous. The pot was up to 50,000 galactic credits. Professor Krix Vep was frantically updating her research. According to these readings, she announced to anyone unfortunate enough to be nearby, Earth's apex predators must be at least the size of small moons. Stifled laugh. Dr. Rivera just kept smiling and drinking their coffee. High Counselor Blipzorp approached the human nervously, all 6 eye stalks focused in different directions, a sure sign of stress. Dr. Rivera, your presentation materials have been approved, though we're still unclear about the need for such extensive safety protocols. Oh, those weren't my requirements, Dr. Rivera replied cheerfully, tapping something on their personal device. I just needed a good screen and sound system. Worried tone. The way they said sound system made several species' natural camouflage activate involuntarily. The presentation equipment was triple-checked. Emergency containment fields were quadruple-checked. Pause. General Raz Thorn had somehow acquired a 5th plasma rifle. My assistant Pipsqueak was monitoring the betting pool. Current favorites are planetary core dwellers, atmospheric megabeasts, or nervous gulp something called lawyers, though no one knows what those are. As Earth's turn approached, the conference hall grew quieter than a void whale's dream. Dr. Rivera stood up, straightened their tie, apparently not a ceremonial restraint, as we'd initially thought, and walked toward the presentation area. Tense whisper what happened next would change galactic understanding forever. Dr. Rivera stepped onto the presentation platform with the calm demeanor of someone who wasn't about to shatter the galaxy's collective understanding of terror. Nervous laughter, if only we'd known. Before I begin, they announced, I want to thank everyone for their fascinating presentations. Those quantum phase stalkers were particularly interesting. Proud pause. I may have preened a bit at that compliment. The lights dimmed. General Raz Thorne's grip tightened on all 5 plasma rifles. Professor Krix Vep had 17 different scanning devices pointed at the stage. Hushed tone, even the silicon-based rock peoples stopped their usual grinding meditation. Earth's most dangerous predators, Dr. Rivera began, clicking to their first slide, are quite diverse. Let's start with this little fellow. The holographic display showed a small, furry creature with pointed ears and whiskers. Confused murmur, several delegates checked their universal translators, certain something had malfunctioned. This, Dr. Rivera announced proudly, is a house cat. Long pause. The silence that followed was so profound that you could hear the micro moths having existential crises. Surely, General Raz Thorne interrupted, all 4 arms waving dismissively. This is merely the juvenile form of some massive beast. Nope. Dr. Rivera clicked to the next slide. This is an adult cat, playing with a ball of yarn. They typically weigh about 4 to 5 kilograms. Professor Krix Vep's research appendages were twitching uncontrollably. But, where are its planetary scale weapons? The antimatter glands? The reality warping abilities? Oh, they don't need any of that, Dr. Rivera continued cheerfully. Cats have successfully hunted over 60 species into extinction on our planet. They're considered one of the most efficient predators on Earth, with a success rate of about 32% per hunt. Bewildered, the floating jellies had turned such a bright shade of confused yellow that we had to adjust the room's lighting. Moving on, Dr. Rivera clicked again. Here's another fascinating predator, the praying mantis. The image showed a green, stick-like insect. Ambassador Lux's shimmer's glow flickered in disbelief. That's barely visible. Yes, aren't they wonderful? Dr. Rivera beamed. They're so effective that the females sometimes eat their mates during reproduction. For nutrients. Horrified gasps, 3 different species immediately filed for emergency evacuation procedures. But wait, Dr. Rivera's voice took on an almost mischievous tone. Let me show you something really interesting. The next slide appeared, showing a small, black and yellow striped creature with wings. Dramatic pause. This is a honeybee. High Counselor Blipzorp's eye stalks had tied themselves into what I believe humans call a pretzel shape. That's not even a predator. No, but they're responsible for defending vast territories and can deploy coordinated attack strategies, Dr. Rivera explained. They'll sacrifice themselves to protect their hive, and their venom can be fatal to some humans. Frantic whisper, the betting pool had dissolved into chaos. General Raz Thorne was demanding his credits back. And here's one of my personal favorites, Dr. Rivera continued, showing an image of something pink and tentacled, the immortal jellyfish. It can revert to an earlier stage of its life cycle when threatened, essentially achieving biological immortality. The floating jellies immediately started a religious revival meeting in the corner of the conference hall. But perhaps the most dangerous predator, Dr. Rivera's voice grew serious, is this one. The image changed to show a microscopic organism. Long, tense pause. This is a tardigrade, also known as a water bear. It can survive in space, withstand pressures greater than the deepest ocean trenches, endure temperatures from near absolute zero to well above boiling, and can go without food or water for up to 30 years. Professor Krix Vep fainted, all 3 research appendages clutching their data tablets. The gaseous clouds had condensed into a solid state from sheer shock. The truly fascinating thing about Earth's predators, Dr. Rivera continued, seemingly oblivious to the growing panic, isn't their size or strength. It's their adaptability, their resilience, their sheer determination to survive. Nervous laughter. Several species were now eyeing the small human with newfound terror, realizing that they came from a world where even microscopic creatures were nearly indestructible. For example, Dr. Rivera added cheerfully, we have birds that use tools, octopi that can solve puzzles, and ants that build living bridges with their bodies. Our planet's creatures have developed strategies and abilities that defy conventional understanding of predator-prey relationships. Ambassador Lux's shimmer had dimmed to such a pale glow that she was barely visible. And humans? Where do you fit into this ecosystem of horrors? Dr. Rivera smiled that same, disarming smile from their entrance. Oh, we're not the strongest or the fastest or even the most resilient. But we did something rather interesting. Suspenseful pause. We learned from all of them. We studied their strategies, adapted their techniques, and even formed partnerships with many species. Those cats I showed you? Most humans keep them as pets. We cultivate bees for their honey. We learn persistence from tardigrades, tool use from birds, problem solving from octopi. General Raz Thorn had dropped all 5 plasma rifles. You live among these creatures? Voluntarily. Of course, Dr. Rivera beamed. Would anyone like to see my cat pictures? I have hundreds on my phone. The next few minutes were pure pandemonium. Excited tone, and let me tell you, I had the best seat in the house for this glorious disaster. Professor Krix Vep, having regained consciousness, was now running in circles screaming, the data. All my data is wrong. Wrong. Her research appendages were frantically shredding years of Earth-related studies. Amused talk about peer review gone wrong. Look at this one. This is Mr. Whiskers attacking a cucumber. Dr. Rivera called out helpfully, showing another image that sent 3 more species into evolutionary crisis. The floating jellies had formed a prayer circle, chanting something about appeasing the immortal water bears. High Counselor Zorp was trying desperately to maintain order, but their eye stalks had become so tangled that they kept spinning in place. Please remain calm. The containment fields are still no. Ambassador Lux, Don T. Crash too late. Ambassador Lux's shimmer had attempted to phase shift through the wall in panic, forgetting she wasn't actually in crystal form. Now she lay there, glowing in embarrassed patterns. Did you know, Dr. Rivera continued, somehow still cheerfully oblivious to the chaos, that we also have spiders that can swim, jump, and even build underwater air bubbles? Frantic, the gaseous clouds, still in their solid state of shock, began rolling toward the emergency exits. General Raz Thorn had barricaded himself behind his dropped plasma rifles, rocking back and forth while muttering, size does not equal threat. Size does not equal threat. Snickering, his mighty warrior reputation would never recover from this. My assistant Pipsqueak was still trying to calculate the betting pool payouts, but no one bet on small furry creatures. What do we do with the credits they squeaked, just before being bowled over by a stampede of panicking delegates? Oh, and here's a video of an octopus opening a child-proof container, Dr. Rivera announced, prompting several technology-focused species to begin encrypting their personal devices, laughing as if that would save them from Earth's puzzle-solving cephalopods. The silicon-based rock peoples had gone into emergency hibernation, forming a defensive crystal formation in the corner. Their last words were something about evolving better camouflage. Chaos intensifies. Someone triggered the emergency sprinkler system, which only made things worse because now the Nexorians were dissolving small holes in the floor with their acidic panic drool. Should I show them the video of cats knocking things off tables? Dr. Rivera whispered to me, as I tried to maintain my professional composure. Strained whisper, I may have screamed a little. The conference hall's AI started blaring warnings. Attention, mass psychological crisis detected. Deploying comfort drones. Pause. The drones took one look at the situation and filed for immediate retirement. Wait until they hear about Australian wildlife, Dr. Rivera mentioned to no one in particular, causing Professor Krix Vep to faint again, this time with all research appendages pointing in different directions. High Counselor Zorp finally untangled their eye stalks enough to reach the emergency broadcast system. All delegates please proceed to your designated stress relief chambers. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a static. They never finished that sentence, having accidentally tangled themselves in the microphone cord. Barely contained laughter. The betting pool credits were now floating freely through the air, caught in the ventilation system, causing a small riot among the more financially minded species. And there stood Dr. Rivera, in the middle of it all, still flipping through cat pictures on their device. Oh, this one shows how they always land on their feet. The physics are quite fascinating. Chaos crescendo. That's when the hive mind collective of Sector 7 chose to make their telepathic announcement warning Earth creatures have invaded our dreams. We repeat, tiny furry Earth predators are appearing in our shared consciousness. Someone screamed, they've achieved psychic dominance too. Hysterical. The last thing I saw before the emergency containment protocols activated was Dr. Rivera asking, would anyone like to see my sister's pet tarantula collection? The conference hall went into complete lockdown. After 3 hours of mandatory psychological counseling for all delegates, Dr. Rivera was finally allowed to continue. Exasperated, though, now they had to speak from behind 7 layers of containment fields, with General Raz Thorne's entire security force pointing various weapons at them. Look, Dr. Rivera began, still remarkably cheerful. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Yes, Earth's creatures are fascinating, but they're not plotting galactic domination. Pause. Well, except maybe cats, but that's more of a household dominance thing. Professor Krix Vep, now wearing a protective suit made of anxiety-dampening materials, raised a shaking research appendage, but the survival capabilities, the adaptations, the water bears. That's actually what I wanted to explain. Dr. Rivera smiled. Earth's ecosystem isn't about individual supreme predators. It's about the interconnections between species, the constant dance of adaptation and survival. Suspicious muttering, the floating jellies had formed a protective blob around their delegation, but were listening intently. Take our oceans, for example. We have creatures called cleaner wrasses, tiny fish that actually swim into the mouths of larger predators to clean their teeth. Both species benefit. Amazed gasps. Several delegates immediately began drafting research proposals. High Counselor Blipzorp, now wearing a neck brace for their eye stalks, leaned forward. But surely, as a Deathworld species, you must have dominated these creatures through superior force. Dr. Rivera laughed. Not at all. Humans learned early on that cooperation was often more beneficial than confrontation. We domesticated wolves into dogs, formed partnerships with horses, and even learned to communicate with dolphins. Shocked whispers. Ambassador Lux Shimmer's glow pattern spelled out impossible in 17 different languages. The real secret of Earth's ecosystem, Dr. Rivera continued, is that everything, from the smallest bacteria to the largest whale, has found its own unique way to survive. Some through strength, others through cleverness, and many through cooperation. General Raz Thorne lowered one of his plasma rifles slightly. Are you suggesting that your species succeeded by making friends with these creatures? Partially. Dr. Rivera nodded. Though sometimes they made friends with us. Did you know we have billions of beneficial bacteria living inside us right now? They help us digest food. Horrified silence. 3 more species fainted. But here's the truly amazing part. Dr. Rivera's eyes lit up with enthusiasm. Every creature on Earth, no matter how small or seemingly harmless, has something extraordinary about it. Pistol shrimp create underwater shock waves as hot as the sun's surface. Bombardier beetles mix chemicals to spray boiling liquid at predators. Hummingbirds can fly backwards. Professor Krix Vep's data tablets were smoking from the rapid input of new information. This defies all known classification systems. Exactly. Dr. Rivera beamed. That's what makes Earth's ecosystem so remarkable. It's not about being the biggest or strongest. It's about finding your niche, adapting to challenges, and sometimes dramatic pause, working together with species you might consider predators. Thoughtful murmurs. The gaseous clouds began to re-evaporate as they processed this information. So you see, Dr. Rivera concluded, when you asked about Earth's fiercest predators, I couldn't just show you the biggest or most aggressive creatures. I had to show you the ones that demonstrated the incredible diversity of survival strategies our planet has produced. My assistant Pipsqueak, who had finally emerged from under a fallen data terminal, raised their tiny voice. But what about the humans? What's your survival strategy? Dr. Rivera's smile turned slightly mischievous. We observed, we learned, we adapted. And most importantly, we realized that sometimes the best way to survive isn't to be the most dangerous creature, but to understand and respect all the dangerous creatures around you. Contemplative silence for the first time since the presentation began. The conference hall was completely quiet. Now Dr. Rivera added brightly, "Who wants to hear about how penguins survive in Antarctica?" Panicked, the containment fields weren't quite fast enough to stop the second wave of chaos. The Annual Galactic Species Conference ended 3 days early. Amused, apparently, several delegations needed immediate vacation time to process their revised understanding of the universe. The official records now list humans as Deathworld diplomats approach with curiosity, but keep antihistamines handy, chuckling, though General Raz Thorn insisted on adding a footnote warning may show you pictures of small predators without warning. Professor Quix Bloom has started a new research department, Terran Paradox Studies, Why Everything Scary is Tiny. She's currently seeking funding to study something called duck-billed platypus. Worried pause. No one has the heart to tell her about the venom. As for Dr. Morgan Rivera, they left us with a parting gift, a digital archive of cute animal videos. Sighing, the Hive Mind Collective is still trying to explain why their shared dreams are now filled with something called kitten mittens. High Counselor Blip Zorp has mandated that all future Earth-related presentations must come with complimentary stress balls and emotional support drones. Their eye stalks still twist into a pretzel at the mention of tardigrades. Final observation, you know what the scariest part is? Right before leaving, Dr. Rivera mentioned that they went easy on us by not bringing up something called social media and cat memes. Nervous laughter. I think I'll skip next year's conference. I hear the quantum void is lovely that time of year. Ambassador Krix Vep, still wondering if I can adopt a cat.